There are very few things we crave more than to feel understood, which is ironic considering the solitary ways we choose to live our lives, but the sad truth is, simply being around people rarely cures that underlying sense of loneliness. And because we can't seem to solve why we are so disconnected and opposing of one another, we lean to stories and books and small accounts of the human experience, looking for that connection we wish we could materialize in our own lives. And when any path in life grows hazy, the stories and the way they beat in your chest remain clear. And when you come upon a real story, one that is raw and untamed, if you look close enough, you can see yourself in it. These have been those stories for me.
Hello, I hope you are well and comfortable because today we are talking about books that I view as absolutely life-changing. These are the creme de la creme of novels that I've read, and this is probably my favorite topic ever, so I'm probably going to be ranting for a long time, so grab a hot drink. I have this wonderful flower tea that I got sent. Isn't it the most beautiful thing you've ever seen? And yeah, let's get into it. One thing I'm going to note is that I'm not going to be talking about self-help books. All of these are actually just different fiction stories, but I learned so much better through that, a story with a lot of human emotion in it. But that's just up to you. The book I am starting off with is one that I was recommended when I was 17, and I read it then, and I'm 22 now, so it has withstood the test of time, and I think about it almost daily. It is Orcs and Crake by Margaret Atwood, and it has themes of technology and science going too far to the point where it erases art and humanity from Earth. I feel like it is probably the best book for right now. We see so much of technology going too far, and it's been happening for a long time, but it was kind of inevitably rushing towards this, and it does it in such a real, heart-wrenching way because Margaret Atwood, she's not going to make it fluffy of, oh, when we're online we don't have friends as much. No, she's going to go like, this is erasing your humanity and your ability to see other people as humans and not just something in like a video game almost. The thing that draws me to Margaret Atwood so much is that she has this amazing capability to see the story from every single angle, good or bad, protagonist or antagonist. She is making a stellar argument for both of them. No one is safe. I love it. She like picks out every single gender, every type of person, art, science, all of it, and lays it all on the table, good and bad, that it offers, and kind of lets you decide. And I love that about her. And it's so refreshing compared to other people. I feel like a lot of people nowadays, they just have this idea that they're right, everyone else is wrong, and once they realize something, they kind of like shove it down your throat and tell you you're an idiot if you don't see it their way. And I hate that. I've been around people like that way too much, where it's just like drives me crazy, and I wouldn't be able to, it just doesn't let you think. Like, let me think. And Margaret Atwood is like that, where other people are like, I've made this meal how I see it and I'm gonna shove it down your throat. Margaret Atwood's like, no, here's all the ingredients, look at every one of them, now I'm gonna let you cook. And one of my favorite quotes by Atwood is, I'm very willing to listen, not to be scammed, because I find so much just pulls at your empathy nowadays and pulls you in every direction, and you're just kind of left feeling like you don't know which way to go, where it's like, yeah, I'll listen to everything, but don't tell me to like make up my mind right now. You know what I mean? I have tons of dog-eared pages in this book, but one little tab, and it is the quote I have thought about almost every day since grade like 10 or 11 when I read this. And it is, had he been a lunatic or an intellectually honorable man who thought things through to their logical conclusion, and was there any difference? It sounds like nothing. I kind of just gave you nothing when I did that. But when you actually read the book and you see what he's talking about, it's kind of, there's a huge battle of the human consciousness and the choices we make, and just the fact that power almost always gets used against vulnerable people. And Craig, sort of the mastermind in this, says, humans really haven't made the right choice over and over and over again. I'll put a little spoiler alert thing here, and you can skip forward to this part, but Craig, our like mastermind genius, also kind of psychopath, creates a whole different human species that cannot hurt one another, but they also cannot really progress to like true human consciousness. They're kind of just at this middle ground, and in his mind it's kind of perfect. He's done the world a favor, but he also kills everybody else first. And also it just has a way of being raw where you're like pulled into it and you can almost feel what Jimmy is feeling and all the regret and how he's being pulled every which way to not knowing what is right anymore. I haven't read the 2 sequels to this, but they talked about making a movie back in 2014, I believe, the same director who did Black Swan, which I love, but then I never heard anything about it again. All I hope is that they do it justice. And I remember when I read this, I was really loving the idea of acting, and I was like, oh, I'd love to play orcs so much. I mean, obviously, who wouldn't? Actually, a lot of her scenes are really creepy, so I wouldn't want to play that. But it's just like, this is the essence of art teaching people something, and I love it. Another book that I actually read in high school, and I feel like I mention this in any emotional, life-changing book recommendation, and that is Life of Pi. I'm sure people are like, girl, have you read anything else? And I have, just nothing hits the same as this. This is by Yann Martel. He has such a beautiful way of writing, and it's very simple too. It's not like meant to confuse you, it's just meant to teach you a moral lesson. I feel like a lot of people use the book The Alchemist kind of as their overall simple moral lesson of life book, and this is that for me. Where Oryx and Crake sort of teaches you about the struggles within the world, the Life of Pi teaches you about the struggle within yourself and how to handle that. It has the most admirable character mindset I've ever witnessed, and in that way it can almost make it a little bit less relatable because you're like, come on dude, mess up, like you're perfect. But it also showed how you're raised and your mindset will help you so much in later in life. And I think that's why a lot of the first part of the book is him really admiring nature and beings and religion, all religions, and just the best part of all of it. And it has a really beautiful way of viewing God, in my opinion. It's not a closed-minded, I'm right, you're wrong, this is the only way. It's just an overall view of a higher power and faith that we are here for something and that there is good, no matter how much cruelty you witness. Okay, anyways, this is definitely the most hopeful book I've ever read. If you were ever struggling through something where you're just needing like a nudge of some little light in you, this is the book you read. And it really shows you, as long as you have the right mindset, you're winning. Through grief, loss, feeling pathetic, there can be light and learning in all of it. In a sense, this is my favorite self-help book because it shows fear is the biggest opponent. Your mindset will control the life you have and whether you can get through it. And it also does all that without diminishing the fact that what happens to you does change you. I cannot stand self-help books that say, brush it off, carry on, you're unchanged, you're unscathed. Yes, I am scathed. I am, so don't tell me I'm not. You know, like, I get it, you don't want to just be like, oh, you're changed forever, but he has a way of saying, yes, you are changed forever and you're still gonna be okay, but you are changed. One of the best quotes that describes this in the book is, when you've suffered a great deal in life, each additional loss is both unbearable and trifling. Beautiful. Now, this is a book that I did not expect to hit me nearly as much as it did. I read it within the last year, and it's one of my favorite reads of the last 5 years. This book is an example that you can write something very simple, but have just the same amount of impact if you have the emotion and intention and human understanding in it. This is The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides, and it is so simply written and so beautiful. This book to me is created for people that have always had this feeling that they were in some ways lacking or unloved, and they have been desperate to feel loved by someone, and it shows how that desperation will make you completely delusional and blind you. It's just basically like Blinded by Love, I guess. I don't think I've ever read a book that has been so good at showing the feeling of betrayal from a partner or someone that you thought you could trust, and just that overall feeling of like everything crashing down and realizing you made them up in your head completely different than they are. I've also never seen a man write about a woman in a way where he understands her feeling and her anger without blaming her and without thinking it's stupid and without thinking she could just let it go. He basically sees her pain and her hurt and is like, I get it. I hurt the same as you. We are the same that way. none of us are more justified with our pain. Oh, all I can say, I don't know who Alex Michaelides' wife is, but she's very lucky if he's anything as he is in his writing. If I use Orcs and Quick to teach me about the world, Life of Pi to teach me about myself and my mindset, The Silent Patient is to teach you about relationships and just how vulnerable it will make you to put someone on a pedestal in your life. Like the main character in this, she literally paints her husband as Jesus. She adores him, and you can tell like that is almost like her life source. The quote that stuck with me most in this was simply her saying, I might spoil something here, so I'm gonna put a little alert, he killed me first. And that's it. And it's kind of like multiple people in her life would do things and say things that would feel like they actually killed her. And of course, you know, you can't kill someone by saying something to them or doing something to them. But this book is like that for the ultra sensitive person who gets affected by that stuff. Like, I can't get over how much I love the feeling that the narrator, the man in the book who's like going to the insane asylum where the main character, the girl, is, they both seem like the same person, just in a different body, and one's a man and one's a woman. But it's done so well. Highly recommend. And you could also finish this in probably a couple days. I'm a really slow reader, so I couldn't, but this is not a hard book. This next book I have had to sit here and mentally prepare before even speaking about because it is so wildly phenomenal. It's hard to speak on. I'm having some ginger kombucha and root beer. Stellar combo. I feel like you simply can't mention a list of hard-hitting books without talking about A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. This is unlike any other book in the way that I literally felt embedded in the main character's skin and like I could not get out, and I was there every waking, walking moment with them. It is a full life story, but it has such consistency. It's phenomenal. Also, this book has become very popular as being kind of a shock factor book. And I will say, this is not just shock factor, this is a slow, grueling, torturous book that is slow. Emphasis on slow. A lot of people want to read it for the shock and go, what's happening? Nothing's going on. That is because it's not just about the shock, it is about a life story. And if anything, this is a book about repetition. It is a repetition of the same events happening in someone's life over and over in different forms, and how their past haunts them and repeats itself. I remember once someone even made a video showing the repetition of words in this book of it just saying, I'm sorry, Jude, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And it shows how something like that can be said so much that it loses its meaning. The reason I love this book is because when there's all this airy-fairy stuff that no matter who you were or what happened to you, you can move on, this is a book that says, but what if it haunts me? What if it lives inside me? What if I can't move on, no matter how hard I try? Because the main character in this, he tries to show himself that he is deserving of love and happiness and success and being safe, and still the past remains and the past repeats itself. And I know at parts of it I was like, why is it going so slow? Like, why are you telling me every single detail of what he's doing in the day? But I urge you, do not skim through this book. It is almost supposed to bore you, because boring is what real life feels like. When you're at home, sitting, staring at the wall, wondering what you do next, that is real life. And this book is the best representation of real life I've ever found. This book is not a simple read, but the most simple quote, and the one that has stuck with me the most, is when he is looking at his life and everything he's tried to run away from and become, more resilient to, and he just says, X equals X, and he is X, and all he thinks is X equals X, X equals X, X equals X, because the only thing going through his mind is no matter where he goes, the past will always be there, and he will always be someone. Okay, The book really just shows some cuts are too deep to not see looking back at you every time you look in the mirror. So when he gets a better job and better friends and a better life that actually shows him what it's like to be loved and successful, he still can't ever feel it because that's just not how he feels. In this book, the main character often views the people that hurt him as good people that he was able to trust and that he thought did good by everyone else except for him, and that is what makes it absolutely life-shattering when they hurt him. And I think the reason people do hurt him is because they know deep down that he's going to blame himself. And the reason I love it is because it's not so sugar-coated and airy that it says just move on, forget about it, don't think about it, look towards the light. And I think if we really think about it, people are so much deeper ingrained in their ways and in themselves than being able to just step outside of the body and walk into a different life while leaving the rest of them behind. Of course, it would be lovely to think that way, but also I feel like if you're a person that can just step out of your body and shed off everything that you once were, you're kind of insane. But maybe not, maybe not. Maybe I just like to suffer. And I'm trying to think now, what is the life lesson in this book other than losing all hope? But I think it's just something that lets you be seen and lets you be heard and not have to just move past everything. It is a long book, so worth it. Don't skim, take your time. Alright, now that we've been ranting to the point of the sun setting, I think it is probably time to wrap it up. Thank you very much for watching, and please tell me some of your favorite books down below. They don't have to be life-changing, they can just be books that you like. And although this didn't include a ton of books, because I don't usually find a full-on life-changing book, I did just buy a ton. If you're interested in other books that I'm going to be reading, I can do a book haul because I always love watching those from people. But yeah, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.